It's good, boxing fans. So I just wanted to make this quick video before I head over to the gym. And June 6th, the return of Miguel Cotto, as he is set to face Daniel Geale. And it'll be taking place at the Barclays Center, which is not the first time Cotto hasn't fought at Madison Square Garden. But as far as, because he fought, and somebody reminded me on the comment section on one of my previous videos, I forgot he fought at Yankee Stadium against Yuri Foreman. But as far as an actual building, Cotto and Madison Square Garden are, they go together, synonymously. and Cotto's broken records at the gate in Madison Square Garden, but he did sign a very lucrative deal with Rock Nation, which is ran by Jay-Z, the company itself, but the boxing department's ran by David Iskowitz. But Rock Nation, and if any of you are hip-hop fans or what have you, and you've seen anything Rock Nation or any involvement with Rock Nation, a lot of it tends to happen at the Barclays Center, which is in Brooklyn, which is the home of Hov, Jay-Z. But I think this is an interesting fight because Daniel Geale, many of you became familiar with him for his 3-round fight with Gennady Golovkin, which he came out the loser in that fight, being taken out in the 3rd round. But when you look through his resume, Daniel Geale's fought the likes of, pardon me if I'm pronouncing his first name wrong, Onusamu Adama. I actually watched that fight. Anthony Mundini fought him twice, lost once, beat him the 2nd time, and then he beat Felix Sturm. So on paper, man, I mean, he technically has a better resume at middleweight than Cotto does, even though Cotto beat the lineal champion. Now, with Miguel Cotto, I think the storyline of this fight is not only the fight itself, but what can transpire after the fight in the case that Miguel Cotto wins, which is a summit meeting, and quite arguably, or I don't want to say arguably, but in my opinion, the biggest Mexican-Puerto Rican fight in years, and I put years in capital letters, as a penciled-in fight with Canelo Alvarez and Miguel Cotto, looks as if is the plan for the fall, be it Miguel Cotto comes out the victor in this fight. Now, to talk about the fight real quick, when I saw that this fight was made, there were other names that were being thrown around. I mean, initially Timothy Bradley was being talked about, and I think a lot of people were kind of, why is Timothy Bradley going to come up to like 157, if that? Because I think this fight is also at 157-pound catch weight, which, again, people are like kind of shitting on Cotto about. And if you want to hear about catch weights, listen to our previous GYGB boxing podcast, which will be on the link below. It's not a new thing, but I think with Miguel Cotto, the thing about him, and I think all of us know this, whether people like Cotto or not, he's not a real middleweight. He did beat the guy who beat the guy who beat the guy, which really technically puts him at the helm of the division, but there's this monster in the corner that is still on a leash that his people just want to let loose, and that is Gennady Golovkin. And he's right now the interim WBC champion. I'll get to that in a second, but to stick with the topic at hand with Cotto and Geale, Cotto needs to be careful in this fight. Daniel Geale, obviously, he's 5'10". Cotto's not foreign to fighting bigger guys. The one instance, though, that he fought a guy that was bigger than him in an Austin Trout, Austin Trout's a boxer, and he outboxed the boxer puncher in that scenario. Now, mind you, this was at junior middleweight. And now we're at middleweight with a guy who's not so much bigger than Austin Trout, but he can box, and he can move a little bit. But the thing I see with this fight, and I look at the Martinez fight, and while a lot of people won't look at the Martinez fight to gauge as far as how or what kind of shape or condition or form Cotto is in. I mean, I think we need. I mean, when you look past the fact that Sergio Martinez had a bum knee going into the fight, among other things, the one thing I stated from the very beginning, when you know after the conclusion of the fight, you know the number one thing that was coming out of the fight was, you know, Cotto fought a Martinez with a bum knee. Martinez wasn't 100%, and and funny enough, stemming off of the whole debacle with Mayweather Pacquiao and Pacquiao's shoulder injury and what have you, you know, it's interesting, or I won't say interesting, but I think it's pretty apparent that most fighters don't go into fights 100%, be it a knuckle injury or an elbow injury, shoulder injury, knees, what have you. There's always something. And the fact that Martinez took the fight, I mean, at the end of the day, man, it was his decision. And I like the fact that he didn't make any excuses like Pacquiao and his team are doing. And mind you, I like Pacquiao, you know, but again, not to get off topic, but the thing about Miguel Cotto is that in that first round, and had nothing to do with Martinez's knee, but he clipped Martinez with a solid left hook that, you know, obviously hurt him, you know, and it had nothing to do with the mobility. It had nothing to do with Martinez not being 100% because he got hit in the jaw, you know, and I think that really told the story as far as Cotto's power coming up to 160 pounds. So in this fight with Daniel Geale, man, I think what Cotto has to do, in a way, similarly to how Golovkin approached it, he just has to do kind of like what Cotto does, is kind of seek and destroy, cut the ring off, utilize the jab. Now, mind you, Geale's going to have a reach advantage on him, and I think that's what Geale has to do, is utilize that distance and make it a 12-round boxing exhibition and ward Miguel Cotto off. But the thing I've seen with Miguel Cotto, at least with these fights, or at least, I mean, the two fights that he's had with Freddie Roach, is, you know, Cotto looks like he is he's coming back more to his original style, adding with the experience that he has, more so than what he was with Pedro Diaz. He became more of a boxer more than a puncher. And I think a little bit of that played a part as far as his approach to the Mayweather fight, where I think he could have been a little more aggressive as opposed to just trying to box Floyd, which you're never going to win that fight or win that battle. Daniel Geale, to me, presents a challenge to Cotto, you know, unlike some people, or I guess contrary to what some are thinking, that Cotto's going to just steamroll through Geale. I don't think Cotto is going to put on as aggressive and as dominating a performance as Golovkin did, only because Golovkin is a much stronger, a much bigger middleweight, who arguably has the hardest punches with both hands, or one of. I mean, you could put him top 5 in the sport as far as power is concerned. So Miguel Cotto's power, I think, could play a major part in the fight, but I think the skills, I think Cotto's footwork, I think Cotto's jab, and I think he has to attack the body early on in the fight, as has been the case in his last 2 fights, which again brings me back to how he used to, or brings him back in a sense as far as how he used to approach his fights, you know, when he was coming up. So I like Miguel Cotto in a unanimous decision in a fight that I think Daniel Geale is going to show. I mean, I don't want to throw the word brilliance, but I mean, I think he's going to show that he's a better boxer than maybe some people think. And I think in some instances he's going to use his size advantage on Miguel Cotto. But I think down the stretch, I think he's going to cut the distance, and he's going to make Geale get out of his comfort zone, and I think that's where Cotto is going to have his opportunity to land body shots, to land those left hooks, and we'll see if Daniel Geale can take Miguel Cotto's power. So I'm going with a Miguel Cotto unanimous decision. I mean, I'm giving Daniel Geale the benefit of the doubt because of the fact that I think he's going into this fight as a healthier middleweight than what Cotto faced, even though, again, I still give Cotto credit for that fight. But I think he's going to have a little bit of a tougher time with Daniel Geale, but just stylistically. So now what stems from this fight? Now, some of you may have read reports, but apparently the WBC has put out the word that following this fight, and mind you, Cotto Canelo is the fight at the helm for later this year, be it Cotto gets out of this fight as the winner. The WBC has stated that Cotto will have this voluntary defense, but even in the case where a Canelo fight is made, if it is made and Gennady Golovkin does not get the next shot, and the WBC apparently is going to strip Miguel Cotto. To me, it doesn't surprise me. I have a theory as to why that might be the case. Well, several theories, but one in particular, I think the WBC just sees Golovkin. You know, you look at who between Cotto and Golovkin, who has the more upside in the near future. I mean, and it's obviously Golovkin because Cotto's in a sense on his way out. The Canelo fight is a huge money fight for both guys. It's one of the second biggest fight you can make in boxing. So when you start to think about it, does the middleweight title add that much more to a Cotto Canelo fight? Personally, I think it would be great because of the fact that I could be wrong, but I don't remember there ever being a Mexico versus Puerto Rico fight at this level for the middleweight title. We've seen it from everything from featherweight or bantamweight to featherweight to junior welterweight. We've seen great battles between Mexico and Puerto Rico, but I don't think we've seen it at middleweight. Now, here's my theory. The fight that I think realistically between both Cotto and Canelo that could be made for Golovkin, to me, is Canelo. And the reason is because Canelo's still 24 years old. He's another guy who has more of an upside, and he's going to be in the sport for obviously a lot longer than what Cotto is. And really, Canelo's a bigger guy. You know, Canelo, he could fight at 160 today. Okay, let's not pretend that Canelo Alvarez can make 154 with no problem. He hasn't fought at 154 flat, 154 since he had to make 152 against Floyd. Since that point, Alfredo Angulo, Erislandy Lara, and Kirkland, they all 155. And now people say, oh, well, what's 1 pound? If any of you have ever had to make weight, and me personally, I haven't, but I know boxers personally and MMA fighters personally, and I've seen what they've had to go through to make weight. And let me tell you, 1 pound can make all the difference in the world. So I think the thing I don't want to see is Canelo just creating his own weight class, at 155. But my theory, and it stems from an interview I saw with Oscar De La Hoya, where he's not too keen on putting Canelo in there with Golovkin right away. And look, man, do you blame him? Canelo, for the most part, is Oscar De La Hoya's cash piece. That's, or I should say his poker piece, or his poker chip. And at this point, man, I don't know if it seems as if on the surface he's very reluctant to put Canelo in that fight, at least within a year's time. Now, my theory goes as if the WBC is stripping Miguel Cotto and not allowing a Cotto-Canelo fight to take place for the WBC middleweight title, in the case that Canelo Alvarez wins, Gennady Golovkin's the next option. You know what I'm saying? And the way I'm seeing it is I don't think they're putting Canelo in a position where if he comes out the winner, that he's got to jump right into a fight with Gennady Golovkin, because I don't think Golovkin is going to want to wait and be an interim champion for 2 years, you know. And and trust me, I understand the whole bureaucracy with the ABC organizations and what have you, but putting the belt on the line for Cotto Canelo would really put Golovkin at the front of the line, you know. So if it's a situation where Oscar doesn't want to set that fight up, he's not. In the case where Canelo won the WBC title, he's not going to have a very easy time convincing the public that that fight isn't the next fight. So if the title isn't on the line, all the WBC would have to do is vacate the title for Miguel Cotto, and then Golovkin would face, I guess, whoever the number 2 ranked guy in the WBC, and they would fight for the vacant title, and then from that point, Golovkin is the guy. So in the case where, and mind you, this isn't the case where Canelo beats Cotto, then at that point, there's no immediate rush on his end, being he doesn't have the title to defend it against Golovkin. Canelo can really fight theoretically who he wants, even though the public is going to call for that fight. So, but again, man, this is just, partial speculation, but if you read between the lines, man, I think it makes a lot of sense. So as far as Miguel Cotto and Daniel Geale, I have Cotto winning a unanimous decision in a tougher fight than people might expect, but I think Cotto his experience, and I think his power is going to show up in this fight. So that takes place June 6th, the eve of the Puerto Rican Day Parade, I believe. I always thought it was the second week of June. I could be wrong, but I think that is the case. But Barclays Center, HBO, and after that fight, man, hopefully if these two can get together, meaning Cotto and Canelo, that's a super fight, and I hope it gets made, and I think it will. So that's pretty much it. Let me know who you think is going to win, Cotto versus Geale, June 6th, Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York City. Shout out to all my Brooklynites, and I will be back soon. And as I always say, subscribe, hit the links, tune in every Monday night, 9:30 to the GYGB Boxing Podcast. And until then, salute. I'll see you soon. Peace.